All right, all right. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Deal Makers. Very excited to dive in today with two studettes of commercial real estate. We're going to be talking about data and how to use that in commercial real estate more effectively and storytelling. So let's see if I can work a tech miracle here and bring in the ladies. Jules, what's up?
I can hear you. You got good audio?
We're good. And we're live. So hello, ladies.
Morning.
This is the first time I've ever done this with three people. So we have a LinkedIn three-way going.
I was wondering where you're going. Okay.
Very excited to spend a few minutes understanding what you guys are working on right now, and would love you to each take about 30 seconds and just introduce yourselves for anyone who doesn't know you. Jules, if you want to start, and then we'll go to Jen, and maybe one of you can jump in on how J2 became a thing too.
Yeah, happy to. So commercial real estate is kind of a newer opportunity for me. It's a second job. I was in television, PR, marketing for my first half of my life. And then always flipped homes. I did a deal where I actually didn't know anything, but basically took our backyard and kind of parceled it out and sold it off to developers for the back portion. So I always loved it. And then I went in and got my degree, my master's in real estate development from ASU, and went into brokerage. Then I met Jen.
Jen, take it away.
Yeah, I actually started in commercial real estate in college back with Westfield Corporation in San Diego, and moved up through the ladder with Westfield, moved to Arizona for a job with Red Development back in 2001. Got my start at a project in San Diego, Junior Seau, the former Charger. He had a restaurant that he built in Mission Valley Center, and that's where I kind of got my foray into commercial real estate. And then kind of like Julie, during the downturn, did residential investments, and then got back into commercial when my kids got into elementary school. So been doing it ever since.
And then what about J2? That's kind of the brand that you guys have affectionately become known as?
Yeah, it started our boss, our owner, a diversified partner, Walt Brown Jr. He affectionately just refers to us as J2. And, he'd call us into his office to talk about something. He said, J2, get in here. And we never differentiated who was whom. And so, we've kind of just been J2 ever since for years now.
I love it. And you guys work on pretty much all your deals together. It's a team, and there's coverage that way. Is that the case?
Yeah, we always want everyone to have a seamless experience with us. So if you got one, you got the other. If one's on vacation, you got backup. So every project, we assign a lead and a backup. So the lead is on the day-to-day, it knows every intimate detail. The backup knows enough to be dangerous and cover it if the other one's out of pocket.
Yeah, love it. Okay. I saw on your guys' LinkedIn headline, you use the term data-driven storytellers. So for anyone tuning in, by the way, if you're tuning in live, do say hello, give the ladies a greeting, let us know where you're watching from. But tell us what on earth data-driven storytellers means to you guys, and maybe some of the thoughts for landlords or tenants and ways that might be exciting for them.
Yeah. I think Jen and I can both probably speak to this. It's something we're really passionate about. And when we met, we first got into brokerage, and we kind of obviously we didn't know each other. We didn't start out being, even friends. So to be a partnership kind of evolved, and it evolved from a lot of common, just overall ethics in the business being our work ethic, but also just what we thought really vital when it comes to leasing up space. And data is such an important thing. Coming from a master's degree in real estate development, I mean, that's all I did was work with data, and the amount of data that's available to you isn't necessarily, okay, it's got this demographic, so that's the target. The data is never the target. The data is just a way to kind of maneuver you to the right place, right? And so learning about that was great, but then also having a background in television, it was the story of what the data was telling, right? So when I met Jen, it clicked because she had very similar kind of thoughts behind the industry. And I don't know if you want to kind of color that out more, Jen.
Well, and to expand on that, Julie does have this background in television, and my background previous to commercial real estate was editing for the government. So between my editing and her, we both also have masters or brokers. bachelor's degree in marketing. So we saw this as an opportunity to bring a story to commercial real estate, which is so far behind,
Right.
And then marry it with the data. So when you delivered it to someone, it was going to sell itself. I didn't even need to say anything. The data would tell the story for you. And then we provided in a medium that people can understand. And it's, in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, it's all, you can ingest it all in a palatable way and it makes sense.
Yeah. And to color that out a little bit, Sean, I kind of went and did a deep dive into your media. It's insane. And you're doing an absolute crazy good job. I was like down a rabbit hole on your YouTube channel. You got one more. But just your process and the way that you storytell a very complicated industry, right? Commercial real estate's daunting to someone who's never tried it, and especially for women too, right? So we as women tend to be supporters and not always the ones building our own wealth. They're out there kind of taking these challenges. And I think even in my real estate development course, there was 3 women in the entire class, and that's standard. That was actually high. So, for you to be able to break down things into really digestible stories and to really understand, I think is incredible, and it's hard to do. But just one of the things that resonated with me is you had said that obviously part of your process is to do tenant interviews when you're in your due diligence phase, right? So that tenant interview process is extremely emotional for the tenant. It's extremely informative for you. Mm-hmm. And you as the landlord get to know so much information, but oftentimes that's not shared with the broker who's leasing up the space, right? So you have all this juicy information on what unique selling props that the building may have, because maybe the tenant's experiencing something really fantastic and they love it, but it's not kind of getting down the line to the people that need to tell the story, and I think that's just kind of an example of how there's not a lot of collaboration to help some of this kind of get lease up faster, right?
Well, I mean, you gave me 3 other questions for you guys. It's like commercial real estate compared to residential, we're kind of like dinosaurs comparatively when it comes to marketing. I think that's something that makes you two very different. Even, not to zing anybody in Arizona, but, we're both predominantly focused in Greater Phoenix. And, I could probably list on 1 or 2 hands the people who are out there with a consistent media presence. And you guys are absolutely one of those. I would love to hear, now I'm going off the rails, but a little bit about how you guys think about marketing and media and your presence. And I think I bumped onto you on Instagram. I think I saw one of you guys on Clubhouse. Obviously, you're doing great on LinkedIn. Like, how does that all benefit a landlord or a tenant and the clients that you guys serve?
Gosh, do we have hours to
talk? I know. And what's funny is if you had asked us that question at the end of 2019, when we were sitting outside making our business plan for weeks and months on end, and now it's so different. I mean, we did have a little bit of the social media. We did do a little bit of the data, but not, I think it was around April 2020 that Julie and I stopped crying on our beer and we said, we have to do this different. And the data is so important, and the storytelling and video and social media. Then we got involved with CRE Digital. We stumbled on that group and we're like, oh yeah, these are onto something. And we just said, we've got to take all this to the next level. Yes, residential is far and way ahead of us in marketing, in touring, in almost every way. And we have to elevate the game, elevate awareness. And so we're doing that on traditional methods, because we still have so many people that adhere to that traditional method. Right? Last sign out in front of the digital, and we're pushing content, reaching.
Jen, we might have to pause. Jules, can you jump in a little bit? Because we're getting a little bit of a robotic, I think the connection's a little slow for you. So Jules, maybe you can take the baton for a minute.
Like, this is so bad. Like, we short-circuited the technology, I think. But I just to reiterate what Jen was saying, it took, there's so much that happened during the pandemic. We all had to look at things differently, right? And so it was such an eye-opener for us. And it's funny because it's something I'd already kind of knew. I think we both knew that like technology was important and storytelling was important. And, but we're too busy doing our day-to-day to really sometimes take that valuable moment and that pause to say, okay, how do we do it differently? But to answer your questions directly, media in general is a resource that I'm finding opportunity every single day. Every single day, I find another way to benefit the client. Probably the most predominant and most surprising was the fact that you can make true, authentic relationships through social without ever talking to someone on the phone, ever meeting them in person, and still know everything about them, their work ethic, who their kids are. I mean, and so when you do meet them, the relationship is seamless and its depth is so vast, right? So you can do a deal with someone in a heartbeat because they trust you. They know that you every day are showing up to your job with one mission in mind, which is to benefit and elevate your industry, but also help your client, right? So it's so easy to do a deal. They know who you are. All that kind of BS gets kind of shoved aside, So I think that if we were to take one part of it, I'd say that's probably my favorite part of what social and what media's done.
There was definitely quotes, if not a T-shirt, somewhere in there that was just a lot of gold nuggets. So absolutely love it. Let's circle back for a second to data because you guys talked about that at a high level. But can you dive in a little bit deeper? For a landlord or for one of your tenants or for a development partner, like what are you specifically doing? Are there sources that you guys really love, and how do you take that and apply it to be able to make better decisions? Or what we used to do that was kind of loose and sloppy is way more accurate now. Can you give us maybe some specific examples?
Jen, you're back and you're really great at this topic. So I think if you speak slowly, your internet may work.
So we combine, we historically, am I still coming through clear?
No, you're good now.
Okay. So historically, we always adhere to like ESRI or census data. But, once you hit that 10-year mark, then the data becomes less and less reliable. What we found is real-time data, cellular data, is so accurate, and they can pin it down to people's range of travel from home, how many resting hours they're in their home, the travel patterns that they have. You can see where a project, even if it's raw dirt, who's traveling by that raw dirt and at what peak times. So it just gives a better perspective on who the people are that are already coming there and what their psychographic looks like. So you know how to tailor what you're going to bring there to the right audience.
Yeah. And so from a data perspective, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Because of the phone, you're saying like we now have, this is ubiquitous and it's accurate and it's GPS, and there's ways to understand exactly who is going where and when, and both their demographics and their psychographic behavior. Did I understand that right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, right? So if you're a tenant, you know exactly who your customer is, you know exactly where you want to be or where you want to locate.
Yep.
Or you understand the consumer behavior and demand. So it feels like we're reverse engineering a lot versus kind of crossing our fingers and doing stuff on spec.
Totally. And when you look at all of the data available, it's specifically like what Jen was saying, the actual data where you can track everyone, where a trade area isn't just the 1 mile ring. It's an actual flow of how people are moving throughout that trade area. So it looks more like a polygon, right? And so and there's facts behind it, but you can take that and look at some of the demographics and kind of, almost like look at from a 10,000 square foot kind of level, and that's your digital community profile, right?
Yeah.
That's a picture of a person, right? So it's the data has this whole community profile that then you can then tell the story, because your audience are the brands you're trying to attract, right? So they're your audience, and you're selling the community that really needs this project to capture them and bring them together to actually consume the goods, right? So it's really important to understand both the audience and the digital community profile.
Are there any other examples that you think would be fun for people to learn about, or tools that you think folks should know about?
Yeah, you probably have some good. So Jen did a real deep dive during COVID lockdown. She had a whole matrix of pros and cons and like multiple colors and columns. And I don't know if you want to talk about some of your findings.
It was just, we realized the value of the data and how are we going to get our hands on that data? And there are only, maybe a dozen companies out there that are tracking cellular data, and then they can give it to you in a palatable way, and you can track even so much as a brand where they're going to not only have competition, but where are they going to cannibalize their own locations. So how are we going to get that? So we had to break it down, all the different ways, all the capabilities, all the analytics that they can provide, and then what are the costs involved. And some of them are, especially for a team like us, where it's just two of us, they're cost prohibitive when it's $100,000 a year. But there are some that are maybe $1,000 a month, and we can factor that in. And in some cases, if it's a really big project, we can factor some of that cost into a future development, and that developer can pass some of that fee on through marketing fees. So we're trying to get a little innovative and come up with ways to make this all work so that everyone gets the benefit of the real-time data, because it's going to just benefit every single person involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I know a lot of folks who aren't day-to-day in commercial real estate, and especially retail, were kind of spooked by maybe what was already happening in retail, but then you add the pandemic and COVID on top of that, and it was just like, wait a minute. Like, I could see folks getting nervous about the category at large. Do you guys want to walk us through, what that was like for you? And then, you mentioned big changes because of that. What do you mean exactly?
So when you say category at large, you're saying specifically retail. Is that your question?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think retail gets some of the bad headlines right now when you see about, maybe legacy businesses closing, or big boxes, or bankruptcies, and, Amazon gobbling up so much of the world that can kind of take up a lot of the media headlines. But, day to day, you guys are out there doing deals every week. And so I'm curious to hear, your thought on that, and then also how COVID played a part in that.
Yeah. I mean, I have some thoughts. I think anytime that there's change, there's opportunity, right? Anytime something gets shifted, there's going to be opportunity. It's going to look like something different than what we're used to, for sure. But people need to gather, and while I guess online purchases have gone up, especially through COVID, there's definitely a need to have brick and mortar, and then a synergy between, what digital companies are doing and what their brand's doing and what they actually would do on a brick and mortar scale, right? So you're you kind of coin yourself, Sean, as a strip mall enthusiast, right? You look for centers that need to be rehabbed and revitalized. And I think I love that. I mean, that's why I subscribed in like a second to your YouTube channel. Like, I think that's what's the deal for the future, because there's everything. It's an epidemic, right? Like, they're going to be repurposed. They need to be repurposed. And those that have their eye on what is working there's a lot of opportunity, especially if you're looking at a center and it was never really maybe merchandised correctly. Maybe the story wasn't told correctly. Maybe they didn't take advantage of some of the demographics that have moved in. And if you can really understand that story and also know what's going on and who does need that brick and mortar, or what digital brands are going to need it in the future because they have influencers there that could blow all their product off the shelf. There's so many different factors that never existed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my take on it. Jen,
you want to
add? Too, but the hammer, I didn't even hear the question. I had to put you guys on mute. I'm so sorry. What was the question?
No worries. We were just talking a little bit about, COVID, how that changed some things. And if you want to jump in on, did COVID change your guys' business model at all? It felt like there was a lull, but, from what I've seen, it's just roared back like crazy.
It's changed our model on a lot of levels. One of the things we did immediately is start going into property that's vacant or a project that's being built in video. So people that were afraid to go out into the public right away, we were on site. We were showing them, here's the construction progress. Here's what it looks like inside, all that kind of stuff. We also realized that, as everyone, that the value of a drive-through. How many concepts now won't even do a deal without a drive-through? So some of our projects, we said, okay, well, we're going to have maybe 2 or 3. Now we've got a 17-acre project with 7, and it's just all about the response to what the consumer wants now, right? Starbucks won't open a location without a drive-through now, where they used to do the cafes. They won't do that anymore. Chipotle, they now have to have a drive-through on a new location. So it's not just us, it's like everyone kind of evolved rather quickly on how we're going to deal with COVID. And it's just going to be something we have to be mindful of in the future. Contactless purchasing. People don't want to use cash anymore. So it's all different.
Okay, I have a selfish follow-up question because my last few deals have been 20, 30, 40,000 foot shopping centers, that were a little bit older. They weren't right up on the frontage. They didn't have drive-throughs. Do you think that, someone like me or other investors or landlords out there should be adjusting their buying criteria a little bit given what we're seeing now? And that made a lot of sense a few years ago or a decade or two ago, but today it sounds like the product that tenants want is a little bit different in retail.
If you're buying something and it doesn't have a drive-through, I mean, one of the questions I would ask is, could we repurpose like an end cap of a building and create a drive-through? Can we adjust the canopy of the building or the landscaping or the curb and create a drive-through? We're going through this right now at one of our projects at Ironwood Nocatio, where this nice big end cap, but the curbs are prohibiting a drive-through. The building is the canopy sticking out. So can we adjust that? Because those tenants are saying we've got to have a drive-through now. So it's maybe a question on those repurposing of buildings, especially if you're buying it right, then you can factor in those adjustments and, still make it pencil.
And then there has been opportunity that you didn't even think before where you can do, take some green space and put outdoor events there that people are going to want to be a part of, and you can charge for it. Like green space was always just a no-no on so many developers because they can't get a return on it, right? But there's some developers I've talked to that are killing it on their green space with even pop-ups where they can kind of breadcrumb in new tenants, be like, hey, you guys set up out there. We'll put you on, 1 year. I mean, I've heard it all across the board from a month to a year to 2 years where they've gotten pop-ups to come in just to test the market and have had amazing results, market rents in no time. And now they have a new tenant that's thriving.
I think you guys may have touched on it a little bit already, but if I were just to ask you, where do you see the future of retail? What would you each say?
Gosh. Jen, you want to go first? I think I have to formulate my.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did hit a little bit. I know that one of the things that we already have seen, and I know we're trying to look at the future, but the gradual adjustment from people doing a Google search to social media search and relying on those people that they follow, the trusted people that they feel like they have a relationship with, even if it's virtual, they still resonate with that person. So that's going to increase over time, and that's going to help brand awareness and maybe how people connect with their favorite brands a little more. Maybe get to know them online before they step into a store.
Yep. Because
they still want the experience. I think that's still, the brick and mortar is still going to be essential, but it's going to be more of an omni-channel. Sorry, Jules, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't talk over you. I think it's so hard to tell what's going to happen because I think there's so much happening right now that impacts that answer. But I do think there's going to be substantial change over the next 5 years. Like I think it's going to just be catapulted into boutique shops that are getting some really cool projects to work on, and those that understand how to collaborate effectively on digital. And it's just going to increase. I mean, from when we went headfirst in last year, and it's been a year, and it's so much has changed where everybody's getting on board. And just the plug for the CRE Digital Army. I mean, they are a group of kind of radically collaborative CRE professionals that have come together to help each other elevate their digital game. And it's helped us a ton. And they just were out here in Arizona yesterday. And we met some of these people for the first time that we've been collaborating with for years. And I know, I was like, oh, how's Jimmy doing? It was just like kids, so, I mean, that was just another wow, this is impactful, and it's going to get better.
I think one other thing, just to add one more thing, on our projects historically on new development, we've mostly historically focused on retail, where I feel like in the future, there are going to be multiple components involved, like maybe a medical office, maybe an entertainment. We've been doing this lately, and it just kind of provides one-stop shop. People want to go there for multiple reasons, but it also gives the developer a little bit of resilience. So if maybe a category is going to taper off or a tenant's going out, the balance of the project can kind of offset that a little bit. It's not just going to be taking it down as all retail.
Speaking of cool projects, you guys gave me a little teaser earlier on one of the big ones that you're working on. Can you share some details about that with everyone?
Yeah.
You mean our favorite project? Oh, Jules, tell them. I can't. I gotta just sit here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's actually not closed, which is a rare thing to talk about before something's closed. But it has been in the papers up in Prescott, so we can kind of tell the story. Essentially, we knew that through working with an RFP with the city of Prescott that they wanted to move City Hall and make that plaza area kind of optimize its highest and best use because it's right on the corner there. We actually wrote a RFP 2 years ago in 2018. 3 years ago. It was 2018 we did it. And anyway, so we had written the RFP. They decided not to move. They weren't sure where they could go. And then Jen and I got an opportunity to list a Class A office space, the only Class A office space in downtown Prescott. And we were like, this is the right spot for them. And they had an offer and it was a unanimous vote. They said, absolutely, we're going to move forward. It's in escrow right now. It's been in all the papers. And you know, I think the claim to fame Jen and I have is, you know, that it was a right place, right time for us. And it was really cool that we were able to be a part of the process, but it's going to be it's going to be a great thing for the city. And it's just because that building they were in, it was like falling down. I mean, it's a scrape as it is. So it's going to be helpful in a lot of ways. And I think that was kind of one of the best parts.
Really cool. Yeah. Congratulations on that. Excited to see it come to the finish line.
Yeah. We are too.
I've got maybe a little bit of a selfish question for you guys. If you're someone looking to buy their next project or two or three, or you're a busy professional who invests alongside someone like me into bigger deals. So, you know, they may be writing $100,000 or $200,000 check, or someone's deploying a few $1 million. What would be your favorite type of deal to pursue right now? Like if you're writing a check with your own money, what would you each want to buy? Jules, I'll have you go first, and then I'd like to hear from Jen too.
Yeah, I like your model, Sean. I think just a lot of strip centers need help, and if they're in the right place, and as Jen said, and you buy it right, it's harder now. I'm sure you know, but I think there's tons of opportunity. I think in Arizona there's a ton of opportunity, and I think if you know what you're doing. When it comes to a really good center that just needs a little work, and there's so many good pockets of Arizona that just haven't maybe found their identity yet because we're still young. We're a young state, you know. And I think as it starts to kind of, you know, there's more influence coming in, and as that kind of develops, there's going to be some big wins. That's my take.
Love it, Jen. Give us some diversity.
I think it's going to be what's the person's objectives? What are they after? Are they after something that's going to just cash flow and they can ignore it for 15 years and they don't have to babysit it? Or are they willing to think outside the box and get creative and maybe take a gamble on a value add center that maybe needs a little facelift, maybe needs some retenanting? So I guess it's depending on what they're looking for, but yeah, it's all the buy. It's everyone's on the same page and how aggressive you want to get. And if you've got your finger on what's going on in the market, it's really advantageous because right now it's hard to find those great deals. I know there are tons of opportunities, but buying the right stuff, especially under like a $3 million mark, it's getting tougher in Arizona.
Yeah. So good question here coming in. What do you guys think about Casa Grande?
You know, it's funny. I was watching it over on the side there. I'm excited that there's some live viewers. That's cool. I don't know. What do you think of Casa Grande? Jen, you got any insight into that area?
It's like Casa Grande, Maricopa, Levine, Globe. There's all these little pockets, Eloy. There's all these little pockets that people were like, oh yeah, tertiary market, not interested, but there's just explosive growth. And we're just going to keep this urban sprawl. Look at if you talked to me about Queen Creek 10, 15 years ago, I would have laughed at you. And now it's the fastest growing city in our state. So that's the up and coming opportunity. And I don't think people should discount it. I think that's where it's going to be.
No, couldn't agree more. I mean, I hear Queen Creek from almost every broker that I talk to. Like, what's your favorite part of town? Well, you got to take a look at Queen Creek or the Southeast Valley. And it's like, you said, that sprawl. And so I think that's interesting for people, you know, beyond Arizona is thinking about tertiary, getting into the path of progress as a way to, hey, if I buy a value add deal and I can force appreciation and all ships are rising, you know, you've kind of got two things coming together, which can be really nice for an investment.
Absolutely. Yeah, Queen Creek, we love it. I can't get enough product in Queen Creek with the State Route 24 expansion, with what's going on at Gateway Airport, all the new development, all the new housing, all the new schools. It's on fire out there.
What about you personally, Jen? Like, your own situation. Like, would you go for a steady Eddie? Would you go for a higher risk value add deal? If you were going to write a big check, what would make you feel the best?
There's a model that one of the shopping center owners here follows, and I really think it's brilliant. They'll look for a value add where it's maybe got 20% vacancy, maybe a little higher, but the tenancy is all similarly sized. So if someone goes out, it's not a 10,000 square foot anchor and everyone else is 1,200 feet, and now all of a sudden we're dying. I like that model. Maybe it needs a facelift, maybe it needs new landscaping, paint, fascia, updating some things inside. I like, and Julie and I we're on point right now to find that. We want to go find that poor little neglected, oh, he hasn't seen his best days, he's going to come back, and put some love into it. We know how to lease it up. That's easy for us, but then to really bring it back to life with the data, with the story. So we're going to take a project from beginning to end, and that's where I want to invest my dollars.
Love it. That is a great example. Couple just closing questions for you guys. Who is an ideal client for you? Like, who should reach out to you? Is it landlords? Is it tenants? Is it someone who's doing a ground up development? What's your target customer look like?
We do just landlord rep. We stopped doing tenant rep over last year for the purpose
landlord and owner. We focused on it.
Yeah.
And both buy and sell side representation?
Yeah.
And leasing?
Yep. Yeah, and leasing for sure. We've done a lot of ground up. We've done existing. We love both. They're both fun.
And look, there's a lot of shops in Phoenix, and there's a lot of amazing CRE professionals. If you guys were to say, hey, we really consider ourselves to be experts in this niche or this area, or this is something that really sets us apart, what would you say that is?
Data-driven storytelling.
Yeah, I think the unique way that we approach a project, whether it's dirt or it's been around 30 years, we attack it differently than most people.
Yeah, it's all about getting the emotion so that people can connect to what's there. It's emotional business, If they're starting their own business, you have to tell the story so they connect.
Any other kind of closing thoughts or advice or insights that you would want to leave our listeners or viewers with?
I don't know. You got anything profound, Jen?
I think that one of the things that we are excited about is collaborating with anyone. Come to us. Let's talk about how we can elevate both of our businesses, both of our brands, and bring awareness to a project or anything you're passionate about. We love to work with people.
Collaboration, not competition. We just want the whole industry.
Or what Jolie said, co-opetition. I love that.
Yeah.
Right?
My frenemies.
Yeah. There's no enemies anymore. That's the old school mentality.
Sure,
right?
It's an abundance mentality. I love it. I put both of your emails up on the screen there if someone wants to reach out and get in touch with you guys. And then, you mentioned some of the digital army folks. It's like we should get one or two or three of those guys to come on the program here. I think it'd be great to get their insights too.
I saw you tag Justin, so we can work on him for you.
Perfect. Love it. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate all your expertise and your insights, and look forward to seeing you out there put some awesome deals together. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.